Hey everybody, welcome back to the Method Van build series. Today we're going to be highlighting electrical wiring. That's where we're at in this build. It's completely wired and we're ready to put in our core bracing kit next. So I'm just going to give you a quick highlight of what the wiring process looks like. You get a feel for how many wires are in a build, etc. like that. Wiring can be a daunting task. If you don't feel up to it, hire a professional. Wiring is something you definitely don't want to take lightly. You need to take into account gauging, quality of wiring, making sure that everything's has abrasion resistance, so we're not getting any wires shorting out down the road. These are traveling vehicles. There's a lot of movement in the vehicle, particularly if you're doing any off-road sort of travels. So we need to make sure that everything ends up being safe. We use a very high quality wiring through Ancor Marine. The jackets are thick. The wiring is beautiful. It's all fully tinned. It's a fine strand. It's meant for this kind of application. I mean, it's designed for marine, but in the van world, we often follow marine standards, not RV standards. So for example, in a standard RV, you'll often see solid core wiring that you find in a house. And that's because even though they're RVs, they're meant to sit. Vans are meant to be driven. And so we definitely don't want to use any sort of a solid core wiring material in these applications. So I'm going to grab the camera. I'll take you around a little bit, show you some of the wiring, show you some of the pathways, highlight some of the tools that we use. And then lastly, I'm just going to show you kind of our core bracing kit as it sits on the ground before we install it, which would be our next video. So let me just grab the camera and we'll take a quick look. So first off, we'll come to the back here of the van. And I'll start by highlighting these two big black and red cables. These are our primary cables. This is 4-gauge Ancor Marine wiring. And this is going to feed our DC panel. So you'll see it comes up and through this pathway above all these little structurals. You can kind of go in behind the structural sheet metal there. And as you'll see, I mean, we've abrasion resisted all of these areas to make sure we don't get any sharp edges, and loomed or we've tie wrapped everything and made sure that everything's kind of tidy and complete. And so as we're coming across, you'll see that primary cable comes across, and now this here is called the zero wall in the van, and it is solid, so there's no holes through this zero wall, and that creates a bit of trouble. And that's why the factory harness, this multicolored harness that comes across here, that's why it's ran on the outside of the van, which we can account for or deal with. But the zero wall, if you want to get through it, you have to drill some holes, and that's totally fine. And we drill a few holes. We drill a 1-inch grommet through there. It's abrasion resistant, so we can pass our wires through there without any concern. So we come through the zero wall, we come up this column, we kind of feed inside the cavity here, and then you'll see the primary cables coming out in this location. This here is where our command center goes in our cabinet. So all of our DC panel loads come to here. So we feed power to our DC panel from our main electrical system through our batteries, and then all of our feeds to the van and various feeds come from this location. And they will run in a variety of places. Sometimes we run, or often we'll run inside this little chase in the top of this upper part of the wall assemblies. Again, we're coming through this zero wall here, running in this sort of chase and cavity. And then you'll see here, for example, we're coming up and over around this upper structural assembly. And that's all fine. It's all hidden. It's all inside the walls. We will come, vertically down in these holes. Again, we'll put in our 1-inch knockouts. We silicone them to make sure they don't move. And again, just giving us that, that resistance to any sort of abrasion. So you'll start to see sort of the pathways that we'll use. So we use on top of those structurals, we'll vertically through here. We do run in some of these uppers, and then we'll mimic this on this side. Again, where we have a variety of different paths. On this side, we have a water assembly cabinet that comes here. So we do have some wiring that feeds into this water assembly cabinet. And again, we're kind of coming up and around this rear pillar. And again, sort of feeding across and out of the way, and then down, and then that's what's feeding the majority of the cable. So obviously the majority of our connections are coming into our electrical panel, aside from the ones that end up directly to the DC. So that gives you a quick kind of look at the pathways that we use. So we clean everything up at the end. We tie wrap everything, make sure everything's kind of nice and kind of neat, so that when we come to installing our other components, our insulation and our cabinets and everything, we're confident in where everything is. I'll bring you to the front and just highlight some of the equipment that we use in doing the proper wiring procedure. So as mentioned, we use all Ancor Marine Grade wiring. This is an example. This is a 12-2. So that's 12 gauge, 2-strand, and it's fully tinned wiring. So just to sort of show you what that looks like. So here's an example. We've got black and red because this is a 2-strand. But what I want to highlight is the stranding. So you'll see, first of all, how fine, if I can get any focus there, how fine the strands are, and it's multi-stranded. That. And the jackets are thick. It's easy to strip. You're not fighting the wiring. So it's definitely worth getting a high quality wiring. We don't sell this on our website, but we do have a wholesaler for it. So if you really need some help getting your wire, then just reach out to us. You do want to have some high quality crimping tools. When we have to make connections in the van, we want to do them properly. And so there's two ways that we can connect two wires. One, and this is probably the best, is a adhesive lined heat shrink connector. This is a 10 to 12 gauge connector. And so when you crimp, it's a single crimp with the adhesive lined. And so it's a crimp together, and then you will heat it and it will melt, and it's adhesive lined, so it actually oozes out adhesive on both sides and all throughout the connector, making sure that will never come loose. So the crimper to do that is a specific Ancor crimper, and you'll see that it's a single tooth, so it's specific for these types of connectors. And then let me just show you what that connector will look like. So we have one just right above us here. So this is kind of a finished version of that. So we've connected, this is our light bar coming up from our A-pillar into our engine compartment. And then that's going to come up and feed through our cable gland. And we transfer to a round cable so we can go through the gland properly. So we have to make a connection here. And that connection, now you can see how nice that is. You can see the glue is oozed out. It's really nice and solid. That connection is never coming apart ever. And it's completely waterproof and watertight. The other way to do a connection is through a double crimp. So this is also made by Ancor. It's not adhesive lined. It's a lot faster because you don't have to pull out a heat gun. And it is really incredibly strong because you do a double crimp. So it crimps in two spots. So let me show you what that looks like. So if you grab your crimper, you see how it has double teeth. So those two teeth will then sort of jab into that metal and create a really positive connection. Not completely waterproof, obviously, so different. Anything that's in wall, we use the adhesive lined. If there are things that are exposed, where if we ever had trouble we could fix, then we can use a crimp like this, but I would say we primarily use all adhesive lined. Take a little bit more time, they're a little more expensive, but it's just that peace of mind. So that is kind of a quick view of what the electrical looks like in the van. I'll just kind of back out here so you can kind of get a full picture of the wiring. And obviously there's a lot of wires that come through a van, a build of this style. So last thing I'm going to just, I'll pause it for a second. I'll take you around to our core bracing kit and show you what that looks like. Okay, so here we are now. I'm going to show you the core bracing kit and give you an idea what that looks like. So the core bracing kit is a kit that we sell. It is available on our website. This is 16 gauge galvanized steel. It's a 24 panel kit, covers the majority of your walls and ceilings, gives you places to connect all your wall panels, all your fixtures, your cabinets, etc. It's all laser cut, etched, self-centering, pre-drilled for 3/16 stainless steel rivets, pre-cut out for electrical boxes and 12 volts and lights and all kinds of things. So it's an amazing part if you're looking to DIY. We've taken a lot of the thinking out. This is something that has taken a long time to develop and create. So if you're interested, hit up our website or give us a shout and we can help you out. But I just want to show you what it kind of looks like on the ground before we actually install it. So our next step is to install this in the van, and that will take us to our next video. So again, I'm Shay. Thanks for watching our build series, and stay tuned for video number 4. Take care.